All right. Okay, so we're about to start. So it's already 3:03. So hi everyone. It's welcome to May webinar. We're gonna have more people. We have more people joining. But we're gonna start. We want to make sure we stay within the timeline. So, welcome to UBN Network War in Business webinar. This is our May webinar. So we trying to have our webinars every 3-4 months to make sure we update our UBN community. So today, as we did the last couple of webinars, we do our webinars with partnerships with the partnership with Danish Industry, Danish Ukrainian Business Council, and Brightbird Security Company. And also today we are pleased to have Helen Volska. She's the manager partner of EBS Ukraine, and EBS Ukraine is a leading Ukrainian consulting company established almost 2 decades ago. EBS offers comprehensive services including market entry support, accounting outsourcing, tax consulting, and legal services, HR management, and payroll solutions. So Helen is going to be speaking right after Mark's presentation, and Helen is going to talk about the corruption issues in Ukraine, or she's going to talk about how her clients doing and how your clients, what the clients saying in regards to corruption in Ukraine. So, and two things, you all know Ukraine business news. Most of you Ukraine business news readers and clients. And by the way, Helen Volska and her team, EBS, just became UBN network clients. Guys, if you have any if you want to get additional information about UBN network membership, please feel free to contact us. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Ukraine Business News Morning Economic Digest. You have an option to subscribe to Morning Economic Digest and UBN reports. We have 20 reports, 12 monthly reports, 4 quarterly reports, and 4 benchmarking surveys. And our benchmarking surveys are voice of the market reports, which were cited in many magazines, including DC and London. And I just sent you the link. Please feel free to subscribe to paid version of UBN news, because if you're a free subscriber, you get news only on Monday. Okay, so we already have over 50 people, so let's start. Mark is going to talk about the latest developments in Ukraine. Everyone is talking about the latest mineral deal that has been just recently signed, and this is a good news for Ukraine. So, and Mark is going to talk about the latest developments, tariffs, and how Europe is doing in terms of starting actually helping Ukraine way more compared to how it helped a year or two ago. Mark, the stage is yours.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Andrew. And yes, as Andrew mentioned, major changes here just in the last 24 or 48 hours. If we were giving this webinar, giving this presentation a week ago, it would be very, very different. And I had slides prepared that were quite different compared relative to what I'll be showing today, and happy to be presenting that. You can see the smile on my face with much nicer, better news that has come out in this highly volatile world. So with that, we'll get into a geopolitical and war outlook related to, of course, all the ongoings regarding ceasefire talks that we've seen lately, economic and business trends, what that macro environment means for the more micro environment related to the economy here, the financial situation, and then what businesses are feeling and doing. A very brief security update. I will provide that this time. Typically, Rasmus, as many of you will recall, from Brightbird Risk, has provided that brief security update, but unfortunately, Rasmus had to cancel last minute because of an emergency professional engagement. So unfortunately, we will not, but I will be providing more security updates throughout my presentation, and then we'll turn it over to the featured speaker of our webinar here today. So Helen Volska of EBS, who will talk about what is on most foreign investors' minds in terms of, yes, opportunities are recognized here in Ukraine, but of course, the corruption environment people are concerned about. So I'm not sure how that line just got on here, but in either case, as far as the geopolitical and war outlook, so first things first, Trump and where we are. The talks, as we have been saying since Trump was inaugurated, and since he was elected back in November, that he would try some sort of ceasefire, and the ceasefire talks would fail. But we have seen some very positive news just literally in the last 24 to 48 hours. And that is obviously working towards Ukraine's favor. We'll get into more details there. Add to that, this is actually becoming potentially Russia's nightmare scenario, which we have discussed in the past. There is always this possible positive scenario where U.S. would maintain some level of support in whatever form that might be, and adding that on to Ukraine. Onto Europe's heightened, revitalized support. And that is actually the direction we're moving in. And so that's us going to keep up the Kremlin at night, assuredly. The labor market here, that is the top challenge in every single meeting for the last year and a half, and continuing this week, the meetings we've had. Assuredly next week, going forward for the rest of this year, and really throughout reconstruction in the future, long term, labor market is going to be the top challenge. And this message, particularly for the investors outside of the country, whether you have a business here currently or you're aspiring to enter the market because you see some opportunities in your sector, you need to be on the ground here. We can give you numerous anecdotes. Endless companies give us this feedback. In order to succeed, not just now, but for the future, for Ukraine's strong, optimistic future, which we believe in, you need to be making those relationships, and you need to be setting your business up for success in the future, and do it currently in order to capitalize on future opportunities. So before we get into all of that, where are we with talks, right? So as we've been describing since November, December, January, this process has actually proceeded almost precisely as we anticipated. Talks began soon after Trump became inaugurated as president in late January. U.S. turned to Ukraine, put extreme pressure. You have to think of the Oval Office dispute just about 2 months ago now. Then they turned to Russia. Russia, of course, delays, never agrees to a ceasefire, engages insincerely. And now we're at the point, quite literally this week, where Trump is actually voicing the frustration that we anticipated months ago. And now a decision has to be made. The U.S. administration had sort of set an internal deadline of the end of April, so we can expect, now it being May 1st, a decision imminently. Will Trump abandon Ukraine, give some minimal level of support for Ukraine, arm Ukraine to the teeth, as Trump himself has said several times, as well as a number of his top administrators? So many scenarios remain open, and we're looking at more positive scenarios based upon what's occurred here in the last 2 days. So what has occurred in the last 2 days? Before we get into that, remember the context here. U.S., until literally 48 hours ago, had not put really any pressure on Russia, and still what they have put in terms of putting pressure on Russia is quite mild. Coming out of the London talks from a week ago, what was discussed in terms of recognizing Crimea, the 4 regions in eastern Ukraine, no NATO for Ukraine, et cetera, et cetera. These things, Zelensky could never agree to it. It would not only be the end of his political career, but frankly would be personally dangerous for him to agree to that. Not to mention the Rada could never possibly agree to a deal like that. U.S. actually can't do this either. 2017, in Trump's first term, under his former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, had actually enacted a law saying that the U.S. could never legally recognize Crimea. And now Trump and Witkoff seem to be indicating in this deal that the U.S. would give recognition. There would be a legal process to undo those laws in the U.S. However, as it currently stands, the U.S. would not be able to legally agree to it. EU won't agree to it, as they've already publicly come out and said. And then also Russia likely wouldn't accept it anyhow if this was presented to them after you got somehow this agreement and compliance between Ukraine, US, and Europe. So not just a non-starter, really just to begin with. And then it doesn't resolve the longer term problem. Ukraine's security guarantees, which are necessary in order to actually see a true, not just ceasefire, but a peace deal. And Ukraine needs those security guarantees. The US, of course, won't give them, as Trump has been public about. Russia won't allow them. At least they would never sign a document agreeing to that. So it returns to the Europeans. So this is where, what is Europe's role going to be? And what has Europe done in the last 2.5 months, now that they're seeing the US pulling back from European security and from Ukrainian support? So what has happened now in the last 48 hours? Again, quite encouraging. As you can see here, Trump and Zelensky, I'm sure you all saw this photo, which assuredly will become a historic photo. For those of you, the Roman Catholics out there, as I was born and raised, maybe we should all say a prayer to Pope Francis for coming through on this one to help out Ukraine. So this minerals deal, obviously deeply discussed, really going back to last September. Zelensky initially proposed this to entice Trump and incentivize Trump to support Ukraine. And considering the many iterations, and we know of 4 to 5 public iterations of this deal, assuredly more versions behind the scenes, we have clearly, truly moved from an extortionist type proposal by the United States to now a genuine actual partnership. U.S. giving financial support, and right after Bessent signed this deal, the U.S. actually just promised more security aid to Ukraine. So this is actually very, very positive to supporting, as they said in the document, supporting Ukraine's long-term independent sovereign future, which of course is completely anathema and incompatible with Putin's vision of Ukraine. So again, very positive news coming out of the White House. Ukraine actually giving 50% of revenues from resource extraction, as opposed to the 70-30 split in the United States' favor, according to previous iterations of this. Also, Trump had been pushing for this deal, saying how Ukraine has to repay old debts, repay the money and the military support that had been given the last several years. Now that's completely off the table. And now all of this is just going to be in the future. Whatever the U.S. is to give, then Ukraine pays back for that. And they're not even actually paying it back, because profits would be reinvested back into Ukraine for the first 10 years. So this is, if you're in Ukraine, this is really the best that you could hope for. And it keeps politically, it keeps U.S. skin in the game, which is absolutely critical. Keeps U.S. engaged, keeps U.S. more or less on the side of Ukraine, and continuing to support, right, in terms of intelligence sharing, in terms of artillery, ammunition, and critically, most critically, long-range air defense. In addition, we actually have seen in the last week Trump moving more and more, to a degree, but more and more against Putin and more towards Ukraine. The minerals deal, of course, that gives Trump actually a massive domestic political win, which he's in desperate need of, considering all the other pressures on him and his administration, which is quite positive, right? Because Putin actually can't offer him some other major wins. So this is something he can show to the U.S. public, and particularly his base. Trump has actually publicly criticized Putin for stalling and for proposing that Zelensky should be ousted. And then the Senate sanctions bill, which now has bipartisan support and more than 2/3 of Senate supporting it, which means even if Trump were to go against this sanctions bill, they'd have enough senators to overpower him and overrun his veto. So very positive news there. We'll see how this develops, of course, but moving in a good direction, plus rejecting Putin's really fake ceasefire proposal, as the Trump administration fortunately recognizes that Putin is not interested in peace, and he just wanted to pause for his own purposes for the May Day parade. But it does leave the question. We're seeing, thankfully, U.S. support picking up, and now this could become really a nightmare for the Kremlin, as we're seeing European support picking up. Politically, highly motivated to move the needle now finally, and not only take care of their own defense, but also provide for the security and stability of Ukraine itself. And the money's there. These are extraordinarily rich countries, of course. Far higher GDP, even at purchasing power parity. Far higher GDP than Russia. Germany, the most critical aspect here, ending the debt break. Norway's sovereign wealth fund. absolutely massive. And Norway, just in the last month, doubling its aid to Ukraine for this year, and likely a lot more money coming from Norway, very specifically. Movement, actually, it's been a very slow process, but there's actually some positive signs, which I'll get into, about higher potential for seizing Russia's reserves. The Turkish military, actually, Erdogan has been outspoken about supporting not only Ukraine's path towards NATO, but also some level of military presence in Ukraine against Russia. And we've just seen in the last month, European countries, mostly Northern European countries, in the aggregate, either providing currently or promising $25 billion in defense. Now, if the US continues their defense support as well, this becomes highly problematic, of course, for Russia. That said, where are the security guarantees? This is going to be a long-term problem, as mentioned. There's been discussion of this coalition of the willing repeatedly, but it's extremely hard to imagine watching British or French troops, a large contingent here in Ukraine, if they were to be attacked by Russia, and then watching Paris or London declare war on Russia. We're very, very far from that. So more realistically, from where we're sitting at today, they need to train and supply Ukraine, particularly if there's more US support. This is more possible. And then as a backstop, providing the necessary air support, training within the country, maybe west of the Dnipro, naval support at sea as well, stronger sanctions also to hurt the Russian economy and its financing of the war. These things are much more realistic in the near term to help Ukraine essentially win this war, get a land for peace deal. But getting some sort of NATO security guarantee or another form of security guarantee in the near future remains quite hard to see. And then there's the major question: would the U.S. continue to support Ukraine if they walked away from talks, if Trump pulled them back? A week ago, Trump had actually said explicitly he would not be selling weapons to Ukraine. In the last 24 hours, and now it appears that the U.S. fully intends to be selling, now that they signed the minerals deal, to sell weapons to Ukraine. So frankly, this would solve many problems for Ukraine, if assuming that does happen, as discussed here in the last day. Another topic we do need to discuss is Trump's impact on the global economy. What does this mean for the war? What does this mean for Ukraine, Europe, its ability to continue to fund and support Ukraine, and Russia's ability to continue to prosecute the war? In our estimation, this is overall a net positive for Ukraine. When you look at the various negatives, yes, of course, this hurts Ukraine's growth and its finances. Yes, it hurts Europe's growth and its finances, of course, plus the political difficulties in funding Ukraine. Out of Europe, if you are seeing very, very weak growth levels, how do you politically make the argument to divert resources even further from the domestic economies to Ukraine? Obviously, these are negatives. That said, the positives, there are more of them, and they're more influential. You're going to have a stronger euro, as we do already. The dollar is down 10% since Trump was elected. Sorry, since Trump was inaugurated. The hryvnia also has been actually a bit more stable and better protected because of some of this weakness of the dollar. You're seeing lower inflation, lower interest rates now in Europe and Ukraine, which of course helps protect the economy. This, of course, hurts Russia's finances from the lower oil prices. Europe, unlike Russia, has access to international capital markets, so allows the financing to be there. And then maybe longer term, one of the most critical aspects relates to the euro now with Trump's tariffs, the impact that has had on the dollar in terms of the loss of credibility and reliability of the dollar as a safe haven currency. This reinforces the euro's role as a safe haven currency. This is one of the primary arguments as to why, say, Belgium and France in particular were against seizing Russia's foreign exchange reserves, and is related very specifically to the fact that it would potentially undermine the euro's status as a safe haven currency. That argument kind of goes out the window under these conditions where the dollar is actually seen as a less reliable safe haven currency. So positive to move, again, the argument in that direction. And oil prices. Oil prices are now under $60 a barrel. A month ago, they also fell to, at the weakest level, $58 a barrel. Russia selling more than $10 a barrel below that. So Russia selling oil currently in the high 40s. This is massively problematic for the budget, which needs to have Russia selling oil at $70 a barrel. We should not see a major uptick in oil prices going forward the rest of the year or into next year. This is going to become quite problematic for Russia towards the end of this year and then into next year as well. So quite positive on that front as well. And especially if the U.S. increases sanctions, specifically the oil sanctions on Russia, this would be very problematic for the Russian budget. So all of those reasons, everything discussed. We'll send the slides to everyone so you can review this. I won't go into everything here, but I will reiterate what we've believed since the summer of 2022 is the scenario 2 of Ukraine. It's not a victory, of course, for as seen by most Ukrainians, unfortunately, but this land for peace deal, which could see an end to the fighting and Ukraine retaining its status as a sovereign, independent nation that was able to withstand and resist Russian occupation. That remains our base case scenario. The other scenarios, as you can see, unfortunately, scenario 1 still relatively high. But if we do see continued support from the US in particular and Europe stepping up support in the next couple of weeks, we can comfortably lower the likelihood dramatically of scenario 1, a Russian victory. So things moving in a much, much better direction and then potentially opening up the investment environment. So for investors, very quickly, what to be watching out for here on the battlefield, we are actually seeing some level of stabilization on the battlefield. Yes, Ukraine was kicked out of Kursk, more or less, but they've made actually some counterattacks in number of other areas of the front, and most areas of the front are generally stable, with the mass exception, of course, in the regions of Donetsk around Tariffs and Chasiv Yar. The long-range drone war is something to be watching here. Ukraine is going to have much greater capacity for drone attacks within Russia, while Russia, of course, continues to be bombarding Ukraine. So that could maybe tilt things in the war going forward. End of the ceasefire talks. What happens here literally the next couple days, maybe the next week, 10 days, we likely should know what is U.S. foreign policy going to be after that. Is a deal going to be signed? We, of course, are pessimistic about that. Would the EU be taking the mantle to lead talks then going forward, say later in the year? Again, we feel more positive now that we're going to see some continuation of U.S. support, so moving in a better direction. Will Europe continue to step up support? They had discussed things like Sky Shield. They had using Europe's air power. They had discussed things like using Patriot systems on the border of Romania and Poland, covering Western Ukraine. These concepts had been discussed really for about the last year. Will they actually end up doing this? So we'll see. Will that function as some level of security guarantee that helps Ukraine here? And then critically to be watching for what happens with sanctions extension. Every 6 months, EU sanctions need to be extended. Hungary has continued to extend the sanctions, and the last 2 times basically compelled to extend the sanctions from Trump's influence. What happens in June? What is Trump's influence then? Again, we feel a bit more positive now that Trump would, of course, push on Hungary and Slovakia to extend sanctions. But if not, then you have a problem, because then you could see Russia's foreign exchange reserves returning back to Moscow, which would be, of course, massively problematic. The tariff wars, very positively. The impact, again, fall in oil prices, and this should cause, over time, a more critical drop in the ruble going forward. So we're going to see much higher inflation, continued high interest rates in the domestic economy. You still are pulling in so many men in Russia, taking them out of the labor market, which is causing major economic distortions and driving up and sustaining very high inflation, particularly from the extremely high wage growth in the country. So that's, of course, causing macroeconomic distortions and problems. And then again, seizure of Russia's FX reserves. So sorry, I took some time there to go through the global environment, but it was somewhat necessary considering all the major developments lately. Moving to the economy, what does this all mean? There have been revisions down, including our own forecasts for the Ukrainian economy. GDP in the first quarter was quite weak. GDP in the fourth quarter actually declined very mildly, related, of course, to the infrastructure issues, and in particular the power shortages. Q1, we saw a little bit of an improvement, but again, nothing to actually really pull the economy and accelerate out of its rut. But the worst should be over, really. We're moving in a much better direction, 3% growth for this year, driven by consumer spending yet again, like the economy has been driven for the last 3 years. And business sentiment, very critically, in February and March, and the latest data for April that we have, has picked up quite notably. So we're in a much better place. Really, this is the best place the economy has been currently relative to the previous 12 months at a minimum. So moving to a better place. Part of this is for seasonal reasons. but the macroeconomic stability is very, very encouraging to foreign investors, as we hear on a daily basis. But inflation is very high, and this is primarily driven by both the energy prices and food prices, but mostly by the very elevated wages that are, unfortunately, it's going to remain because of the labor market problems with the high mobilization. So what are businesses saying? I'm presenting this slide because we recently released our Q1 Voice of the Market report, which is includes business benchmarking survey data as well as executive commentary. And this is what we're hearing every day, really, for the last several months from the executives. This point in particular about having a local presence here. You need to be on the ground here, to be investing effectively and efficiently. You can't invest from the sidelines, as one executive has said, and that echoes what numerous executives have said. Where were you during the war is another very common one. This is going to be remembered in 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now. Did you come to Ukraine when it was easy, or did you come to Ukraine when Ukraine needed you, right? And this is something not only government officials, but local partners on the ground this is valuable to them. And we know this, Andrew and I, having started a business here during the war. We hear that and we feel that we're with all the economic actors at this, of course, very poignant time in Ukraine's history. The resilience, of course, there's worries about Trump, but what we've heard consistently is that it's just the latest problem we've had, and we've been dealing with lots and lots and lots of problems for the last several years. So it's just the latest one. Having strong execution, planning, contingency plans, having a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, said by numerous executives, but particularly related to managing power shortages. Having headquarters support, right? And in most cases, what we hear, most of our Western investors are quite successful here and have returned back to profitability, strong revenue growth, revenue levels that are higher than even pre-war levels. Headquarters is here because they support the business. This is not a charity. This is not an NGO. The businesses are quite successful. It just takes very, very strong management, strong execution, resilience, very strong support for the team, for morale, psychological support, and things of this nature, which obviously isn't quite required in a lot of other markets. But then the labor market, of course, is the biggest issue, and this will be the biggest issue going forward, really, for the next 10 years for Ukraine's future. So when you're coming to this market, or if you're already here, you need to have a robust talent management plan. I won't go through everything on the slide. We'll send this to you. I do want to move things to Helen so she can talk more about on the ground here, managing risks. But you can see from the survey data, this is from over 70 executives of Western multinational corporations, very positive results, 2023, 2024, expectations for 2025. Majority of firms seeing revenue growth this year, around half of them seeing profitability as well. Plans to invest further. It's down a little bit, which makes sense after all the infrastructure damage over the last year. But nonetheless, you're still seeing a strong tendency. And most of the others still intending to continue to invest at similar levels of the last few years. General optimism over the long-term opportunity here in Ukraine. And then over 70% of executives believe that they will be behind the competition if they don't start moving now. So that's the feeling on the ground here by the managers in Kyiv. But of course, you see much more hesitance, unfortunately, by the managers, their regional bosses outside of the market. So a lot of this has to do with internal communication and strong management of local teams and communicating up the ladder to corporate outside of the country. So I'll leave it with that. Happy to take any questions, of course, but I do want to turn it over to Helen. Before that, if you have a second, we have 2 QR codes for you. For those of you who are not subscribed to UBN, please do take a picture of the QR code here, and you're welcome to subscribe. And likewise, we have a podcast, History in the Making, the War in Ukraine, in which every week we talk to business leaders here, historians, academics, soldiers, former POWs held in Russian captivity, et cetera, government officials, to talk about life here in Ukraine and the importance of the war to Western audiences. So,
Mark, yeah,
I'll leave it at that. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Let me add a few things. First of all, our general sponsor is Piraeus Bank, and Piraeus Bank actually is going to Prague with us. So UBN team was pleased to speak at the GlobeSec security event, one of the largest events in Europe, and it will be attended by 3,000 people. And Mark and I, we were actually offered by GlobeSec to moderate the main stage, and we're going to have a side event fully dedicated to Ukraine. So that this conference, GlobeSec conference, will take place in June 11, 14. It's a 3-day event with 3,000 attendees, and we already have a Piraeus Bank coming with us. And if any law firms want to join us as well, please let us know. Feel free to send us a text message or email, and we'll be happy to discuss that with you. So, but now we're gonna give the stage to Helen Volska, the manager partner of EBS Ukraine.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Mark, for inviting me as a guest speaker. And I hope you can hear me well. Before I go into the talking about corruption, because this is what you asked me to talk about, just wanted to reintroduce myself. So I'm a managing partner of EBS, and as Andrew says, Ukraine, EBS is only Ukraine. We have been established in 1998, so it's going to be closer to 3 decades here, and we have been established to actually serve business and investment in Ukraine. And right now, I think the reason why I can speak about the practical issues of doing business in Ukraine and also corruption in Ukraine is because we have really over 200 clients on permanent basis, and most of these clients is international foreign business having activities in Ukraine, and our service lines such as accounting, outsourcing, or payroll, or tax usually offer services to international businesses in Ukraine. So this is one point of view and one touch, I would say, in terms of how business is working here and is it actually facing a lot of corruption or not. And we also have management and IT consultancy services. We also have audit. We are also doing the audit of public entities in Ukraine. So most of those clients are Ukrainian clients. And this is another point of view, another touch. And I guess what I'm going to talk about is how these things are different, because I'd say we don't want to split it, but in fact, those are two different business cultures. And because of how business is done, and because those are two different business cultures, they see corruption in Ukraine different. So if you can turn please to next slide for me. So not going very far into details, we've decided to actually use the statistics of European Business Association researchers for last year, and I think overall we can assess of how corruption is developing, or is it becoming a smaller impact. Everything is more or less represented on this slide. So we look at corruption as business at different indicators, but first of all, we look at the tax, we look at the customs, and we look at how the judicial, the court system is working. So what you can see here is the tax index has declined. So it's the members of European Business Association have given their feedback that the tax index has become more difficult. In our opinion, because we are actually doing a lot of mandatory reporting, and we are supporting tax reviews for our clients. So in our opinion, this decline is not related to increased corruption within tax authorities, especially if we're talking this bubble of foreign business working in Ukraine, because usually this foreign business is transparent, works by the book, pays taxes, etc., etc. But this decline is related to increased tax burden, literally the increased military tax. And although we know that military tax is not tax on business, it's tax on individual. However, I think would be fair to say that more than 50% of transparent business have absorbed the increase of labor cost because the increase of this tax burden. So the tax index has declined, but at the same time, it's important to say that from the corruption itself point of view, there has been a lot of progress from tax point of view. Like, for instance, there has been a new law adopted on White Business Club, which literally puts a ban on tax reviews for those companies meeting certain criteria in terms of size and operations and in terms of the taxes actually paid. So we here we see, in fact, a lot of progress. This law has started really operating. We're observing how it's going to be. Not a lot of time has passed yet, but this is definitely a progressive sign. On the other hand, customs index. So what we see is that customs index has improved. And actually, we have also looked at similar studies of American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine. And basically, business is saying that customs have made a lot of progress in this past year, 2024, compared to many years before. At the same time, we hear a lot of comments that this still remains a major problematic area. And if we compare the two business culture of foreign business operating in Ukraine and Ukrainian business, yeah, of course, there's a lot of transparent Ukrainian companies, but yet many non-transparent. So this non-transparency, this or the other way, is related to customs, and this is still an issue. So I think there has been a major effort from the transparent business in the previous year addressed to the government, asking government to put more pressure on those who are not paying taxes to make competition more fair, instead of putting even more pressure on those who are paying taxes. So that's something that is important to remember in terms of how things are operating here. And of course, continuing my idea about these two different business cultures, I think that White business can use the benefits not only of White Business Club, but definitely foreign business in Ukraine, but not only foreign, can be a member of associations that actually can help protecting their rights and can be their voice in case of some difficult situations which may arise. And by this I mean associations like European Business Association, American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine, and many others. And also the Bureau of Business Ombudsman in Ukraine. So we have also seen that it's actually working, and it's actually working well not only for foreign business but for Ukrainian companies who know that it exists, who know how to address the issues, and of course they need to have a strong position and strong legal position to be able to come for help and come and complain about any situation. So that's also important. Overall, I think if we assess the tax and customs, so for big and transparent companies, there is more and more progress with the smaller corruption index, let's say so. However, still there is quite a big sector of economy which is not fully transparent, which is giving food and nurturing this corruption. So there is still a lot of work to be done here. On the court index, we also are seeing on this slide the positive dynamics. And getting ready to this webinar, I have spoken to our legal practice, and yes, this is what we are hearing, that although, again, you can hear some complaints, but usually these complaints in practice would be relating to the situations when some of the courts are not working, they're not operating, things like that. But when they are, there has been a lot of progress. We know that the judicial reform has been done by previous president and his team. However, it's taking time to see the progress after it's done, and I think we are observing now the positive signs of it. And in simple words, I can say that we are seeing that no court decisions are made without evidence. So, finally, the court decisions are made based on evidence, and this is already, it sounds funny, but it's a big victory, I think. That's number one. And I'm, of course, whatever I'm saying right now, it's purely from the business standpoint. And the other positive sign is that we have the Court of Cassation, which is actually working. So, and this has been also a very positive movement in this whole business environment. So that's overall. What else can I say here? That yes, we're hearing continuous talk about corruption in Ukraine, and if we come back to a few years ago, 5 years ago, there has been a lot of talks about oligarchs. Well, we can more or less state that there are no oligarchs left, at least formally meeting the criteria of oligarchs. So this tick is done. I think it's. I mean, there is some sad side of it, because not all of it is due to the reforms or things like that, but also due to the fact that assets have been destroyed. This is sad, but it is what it is. So then on the positive side, I think it's important to state that it's very easy to start business in Ukraine. It is very easy to set up company. It is very easy to, it could be done very quickly in days, in hours. It is very easy to, so there is big flexibility here. It is also very easy to open bank account. I think if we compare Ukraine to our neighbors in Europe, there is a huge flexibility that we have here. and it's very easy to operate business once you've started. So I think we also are enjoying the benefits of digital state, and I think we're feeling how the digital state is penetrating each aspect of doing business here. And although we're still, in many ways, paper-based state in terms of how companies should keep its records and things like that. But I think there is a huge trend to transition to digital. And in this trend, I mean, the more we transition to digital, the less reasons for day-to-day small corruption exists. So we also see this as a very positive side. And of course, you know, if we assess of during the war, who have been these new businesses, mostly new businesses have been those related to military tech. And I think the military tech business also have opportunity to enjoy the special regime for IT companies, not for IT, for digital companies called DCT. But I mean, there are many countries offering some kind of special regimes for digital businesses. I think one of important features of Ukraine is that it's more than just a regime. It's really a big interest of the state to make sure it's developed. So it's a whole network, it's a whole ecosystem. And for companies who meet the criteria and can enjoy this regime, the real life is real business life is much easier. So I think that's also important to know in terms of what's going on right now. Well, at the same time, I mean, not everything. Not everything is ideal, of course, and I think once you have set up a company here, which is easy, as I said, you open bank account here, which is also easy. You can also enjoy the electronic postal services of the state, and it's quickly. Then if your business needs to get some licenses, permissions, if your business somehow related to construction, if your business is going to require anything related to land and things like that, this is getting more complicated. But I think there should be some kind of a line of how we define corruption, because the more local you go, the more issues you may face. So I think on a high level, there is a big anti-corruption trend. On local level, even if we speak about tax authorities, even if we speak about like same things like customs, and specifically if we speak about licenses, permissions, and things like that, there still could be issues. But yes, you can try to protect your interests, as I said, using business ombudsman and different associations, and it still works. For if you are transparent, you work by the book, your rights are better protected. So,
yeah, Helen. So first of all, if you have any questions, if you have any requests, or you need to open the company, you need any help from Helen and her team, please, we're going to share this information. You can always contact EBS. Also, I would like to compliment a few things that Helen just mentioned. Look, if you come to this country, I mean, unfortunately, we have our country has a bad reputation in terms of corruption. However, we, Mark and I, we always speak to new clients and our current clients and potential clients from overseas, and they're talking about corruption, corruption, corruption. Oh, I remember I was there in 1998 and 2001, and this is what happened to me. Look, we understand you have a bad experience, but look, the things have been changing. There is a drastic change in certain areas, and this is what Helen is. I would 100% agree with Helen. On a higher level, there is a drastic change. When it gets deeper to the regions, there is still the corruption aspect is valid, and if things are happening. Look, the country has been going through drastic changes. You should understand that, but at the same time, the things has been improving. At the same time, also another very good point. Again, Helen mentioned business associations. We're not competitors. We're friends with them, but people joining UBN network, EBA, MCHAM, because you have to be visible. Your company has to be present, visible. If things happen to you, hopefully not, you have to be able to address those issues. The sooner you address these issues, the sooner they will be resolved. Okay, so again, we are on a positive trend and things are happening in a positive way in Ukraine, so let's stay positive. Helen, I have two questions. First question is from Bill. Is it possible for a foreign investor to remit both investment capital and profits from Ukraine?
For new companies, you can distribute dividends. That's in relation to changes to the currency control regulations released last year. So it's only related to new dividends starting from 2024. Anything else you cannot release yet. So
okay.
Currency restrictions still are quite severe, let's say this, but I think we understand them. But I think the conditions for new businesses are more beneficial.
Helen, can you confirm, because I might be mistaken, but correct me if I'm wrong. The government allowed 1 million euro of dividends paid to overseas companies. Is it correct, or this is the information that I've heard? So the level of the remittance was increased. Can you make any comments on that?
Well, actually, I'm not prepared to make comment on that, immediate comment on that. But to my memory, it's mostly related to the period. Yeah, so you can distribute dividends for 2024 and going on.
Okay. Okay, so
if you have new business coming to Ukraine, then obviously you will have this new dividends.
Okay, sounds good. So again, we're going to share Helen's email. Please feel free to send her email if you have any questions. I have a second question from Richard. Can you, Helen, confirm if there are changes expected in the customs clearance process for importing?
I cannot confirm this right now.
Okay, Richard, I'll share this information. I'll share Helen's email, so she'll be able to communicate with you and answer your question. Guys, please feel free to send your questions if you have any. And while if you don't have any questions, I want to add a few things. So we talk to businesses constantly, and this is what Mark said previously. You have to be present here. For example, there is a lot of auctions taking place, and the government is trying to get rid of so many assets that have not been profitable, but can be a great investment potential for investors. and you have to be here in Ukraine in terms of in order to evaluate those assets. And we, for example, brought up as an example, there's a Vinnytsia chemical plant that is going to be on sale in about a month or two. And this company actually was bringing profits of $4 million before the war. And this asset, actually very well maintained asset, was confiscated from the Russian oligarchs and has been processed and is going to be put for auction. And now it's going to be sold for around the starting price, I believe, $8 or $9 million. So think about it. If before the war, the net profit was about $4 million, that is a good asset to have. My point is, please, if you want to, if you see Ukraine as a future emerging market, if you see Ukraine as a potential investment region, you have to at least open your office and be here. You have to be here in order to do your due diligence, join organizations you think will benefit your business. You have to do some work, because if you think that the war is over and then I'm going to enter the market, you'll be late. We spoke. We actually just few examples. We have right now present our client Winner Group, the largest auto dealer. They've been their sales have been going up for the last since 2000, late 2022, early 2023. BASF, client of ours, also confirmed that their revenues are stable, and they're planning on and their revenues slowly but gradually going up. We have many companies that actually confirm that, but these, don't forget, these companies have been on the market for quite a long time. They adopted, they changed the strategy, and they show a good performance. So please, if you're interested, again, you can always contact us. We can put you in touch with the companies who can help you with accounting, with legal services, and so on and so on. So what was that? Since 2024, foreign businesses can repatriate up to 1 million euros per month. Did you find it, Mark? What was that?
Yes, that was the National Bank of Ukraine. They've been loosening capital controls for the last really 2 years, and that was one of the biggest amendments to the capital controls was in May of last year, allowing. So that more impacts small, medium enterprises, but obviously it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Again, guys, do you have any questions? All right. So we will share our slides with all of you. We will share Helen's email. Feel free to contact her if you have any questions. Helen and her team can help you with that. Again, subscribe to UBN Morning Digest if you're interested in UBN network reports. Please contact us. Actually, we just it's been a year since we set up a paywall. And if your organization is looking forward to subscribe to corporate rate, it's only $1,500, which includes 25 subscribers to UBN Morning News and 20 reports. Or you can join UBN Network. It's $2,800, and you will be able to attend our events, be part of the. We can brief your team, and so much more. Again, if you're interested in recording of this webinar, we also can share the link with you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and we will see you at our event on June 20th. We have June 20th event, live event in Kyiv. So feel free to register and attend the event. This event is going to be done in collaboration with US-Ukraine Business Council. So this event is going to be huge. Make sure you register in advance. Again, thank you so much. Thank you, Helen, for your participation. Guys, feel free to contact us at any time. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.